Bless up, bless up, bless all the way up. Shout out to my bro Rick Montgomery. Y'all know Rick. You better say it. Shout out to him for this not camera, but this little holder. It's like a phone holder he got for my car. And I'm telling you, I'm so excited to get back doing my videos because I be in the vehicle traveling and I got a lot to say and I can't keep it to myself. If y'all only knew how much I talk to myself in this car in between meetings, going places, praying and slaying and complaining and cussing and fussing, but working on changing the world. Can I get an amen? Anyway, the video today, I'm talking about lived experience and I'm talking about the peer support specialist credential. Oh yeah, let's talk about the peer support specialist credential. Before I go in about the peer support specialist credential, I want to make room and preface saying that I am grateful for the peer support specialist credential. I am grateful for the person who trained me. Shout out to Andrea Morris, who trained me back in 2012, and shout out to Ted and Eliza Khan and all those peer counselors that I was locked up with in prison, because my peer support experience, peer counseling experience actually started when I was in the penitentiary back in 2010. Yeah, that part. But anyway, I'm grateful for the peer support credential. You know, whenever I couldn't become a CSAC, was formerly known as CSAC, back then they had those oppressive, systemically oppressive rules and regulations in place as it relates to occupational licensing boards, and your boy could not become a CSAC because I had a trafficking charge on my record, had a violent crime on my record, and you had to wait a certain amount of time with having trafficking charges or violent crimes. You had to wait a certain amount of time before you could even register with the board. And for those of you who don't know what a CSAC is, a CSAC stands for Certified Substance Abuse Counselor. They have changed the name. They changed the language. There's power in language, but they changed the name to CADC. Some people call it CADAC. Some people call it CADC. But it's Certified Alcohol and Drug Counselor. And so anyway, back then I could not even register with the board to become one, and I was depressed. My heart was broken. I had went back to school for human services and I was ready to rock and roll. I had worked as a peer counselor in the prison, and when I got out, I had my mind on the prize with a goal to become a substance use counselor. I was ready and I couldn't get registered, heavy laden, and I never forget. Shout out to the OG. I always got to give credit to the OGs. Shout out to Steve, Big Steve. Me and him was working at Neil Dobbins Center. He was one of the techs, and he was like, man, you might as well go take the peer support training. You know, it's a good credential to have. I was like, oh, what is a peer support credential? And he told me about it. I went to the training, because like I say, I had already worked as a peer counselor when I was in prison. So boom, when I get my peer support certificate, it changed my whole life. I was proud. I got a raise. Shout out to Pam Coppage, the great. Pam gave me a raise. You dig? And but anyway, I love it, man. I'm all about lived experience. I'm all about my fellow recovery warriors, saluting all those people who are practicing these spiritual principles on a daily basis in order to have a daily reprieve based on their spiritual condition. And their spiritual condition is dependent upon the spiritual maintenance, and that maintenance includes practicing spiritual principles. Y'all better stop playing with me. But anyway, I'm upset, right? I feel like we need to separate the credential. Like, there needs to be a separate peer support credential for mental health and from addiction and substance use. There are some states that do it, like they have them separate, like Texas and Pennsylvania. They have them separate. Like, there's a peer support credential for people in recovery from addiction, and there's a peer support credential for people that's in recovery from mental health. And I feel like that is the best thing to do, and I'm gonna tell you why. In my how long I've been doing it? 10 years outside, about 12 years total. In my time doing this work, I've seen the peer support credential blow up, right? I've seen the peer support credential evolve. More and more people want to be peer supports, more and more job opportunities. Some people see it as a hustle and stuff like that. Me, I'm more dedicated to the recovery than I am the hustle. So anyway, I've seen people going to get the credential that they ain't in nobody's recovery. You know what I'm saying? They ain't in nobody's recovery. They say they in mental health recovery. Okay, you in mental health recovery, what that look like? I can't say. I ain't gonna sit here and say I'm the mental health expert, though I am on some mental health medications, and I do take some for sleep. It's PRN now, though. It ain't real strong like it used to be. And I used to see a psych nurse practitioner as well. And my daddy had me see a psychologist at a young age. But I've been lit here lately, you know what I'm saying? Like with my recovery meetings. I got a sponsor. Shout out to Big Homie Vince. You know what I'm saying? House of Emmaus stand up. Pentecostal Fire. You know, I got mentors, stuff like that. But you know, I have a recovery program, and I'm in recovery from addiction. Like when I'm at Celebrate Recovery, I sell it when I introduce myself. I say I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I celebrate recovery from addiction. I'm specific to say I'm in recovery from addiction, and I'm it's no shame in my game. Like I'm not the guy that say, you know, I don't want nobody to call me an addict. No, I'm an addict. I'm a whole life addict. I'm a recovering addict. And I will own that until I'm in the grave. You know why? Because I know I have a condition that says one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. I have a condition that says keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. Get it. You know what I'm saying? When I start getting high, like anybody that know me that's from this area, they'll tell you, like anybody that was getting high with me, they'll tell you like I got crazy when I was using. And I tried the marijuana maintenance program. I tried to just drink. I tried the different ways. It didn't work for me. Every time I ended back on the hard stuff, back in the jailhouse, it is what it is. And so anyway, I'm specifically in recovery from addiction. And the pathways, as far as it relates to addiction recovery, I'm familiar with, period. And I'm in recovery from addiction. You know, and so it's appropriate for me to provide peer support to somebody who is seeking recovery from addiction. But I don't feel like it's appropriate for me to provide peer support for somebody that's gung-ho mental health challenges. I don't believe it because it's different. It's different. And for me, I can point to my clean date. Some people don't like the word clean. That's neither here nor there. But those of us who are active in recovery, we don't mind words like that because we understand the lifestyle that we made it out of, and it's okay. Words ain't hurting our feelings these days. There's people out here dying. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I don't mind people calling me an addict. I'm a recovering addict. And I don't mind using the word clean. I got clean. January 16, 2009, my whole life changed. You dig what I'm saying? And so what I want people to understand is that we need to separate the two credentials. For people that's in recovery from mental health, bipolar, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, PTSD, you know what I'm saying? I feel like you need to have a credential that is specific to that because you're a peer of somebody. If you got those diagnoses and you support somebody else with that diagnosis, you helping them, that's your peer. But if you ain't got that lived experience, how you gonna say that's your lived experience if you ain't got that lived experience? Around my way, we call that faking the funk, homeboy. So my recommendation is to separate the two credentials. And I recommend that the addiction peer support be governed by the North Carolina Addiction Specialist Practice Board. Yeah, and I've been shooting this info to several people, my recommendations, because like I see the opioid settlement dollars coming down. You got all of these people that's alleged experts with addiction and all of this stuff, man. I ain't going back and forth debating with nobody that's got no master's degrees, talking about what they learned in a book. Have you ever been stuck in a crack house looking on the floor for a piece that ain't there that you thought you dropped? But listen, I'm gonna tell you, that's what they call substance-induced psychosis. We talked about that in abnormal psychology. That's neither here nor there. But what I'm saying is that the peer support who is in recovery, who self-attest that they are in recovery from addiction, that needs to be a separate credential. It needs to be a separate credential, and it needs to be governed by the North Carolina Addiction Specialist Practice Board. They have a framework in place for governance and accountability, and I just feel like it's the best way to do it. Because at the end of the day, a peer support specialist is actually an addiction professional. If you ask me, that's what a peer support specialist is. Actually, you can ask the APNC. I'm connected with them too, and that's when you identify yourself. Like when they ask you what type of addiction specialist you are, you go in there. And peer support is one of the options. Yeah, in recovery from peer support. And I know some people that's in recovery from gung-ho mental health. You know what I'm saying? That's been to therapy, that's been hospitalized, and went down a dark road. And I salute they lived experience enough for me to say it's different. And it warrants somebody that's done been in their shoes before to genuinely provide peer support. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Matter of fact, one of my bros just finished his peer support training. And he'll tell you he in recovery from anxiety and depression, take his medication, see his therapist, play ball, you know what I'm saying, dieting, like he go to support groups, like he's solid. That's a different experience from somebody, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna say this, and in conclusion, let me say this. There was a guy I knew, and he was a peer support specialist, and I know he had dual diagnosis, I know, I know for a fact because I remember when we got him into treatment. Because, matter of fact, he's a friend of mine. I love him to death. But dual diagnosis, and he had a return to use. And when he had a return to use, pardon me, I'm eating the peppermint. I came off keto briefly, and every time I see something I've been wanting to eat, couldn't eat because of keto, I've been smashing. That was super random. My YouTube channel. Let's go. But anyway, he had a return to use. And when he had a return to use, he felt like he could keep his credential because he was still in mental health recovery. I wasn't having it. And he understood it too. Once I had that brother-to-brother conversation with him. And it ain't no judgment. It's just what we call accountability. And if people can't be held accountable without saying that somebody judging them, that says something about their recovery program. Bro, tell that. Well, I feel like I got that off my chest about my recommendations. The credentials should definitely be split up. There should be a peer support for mental health, and there should be a peer support for substance use disorder. There's definitely a space to be made to say that some people have dual diagnosis, and I believe if you have dual diagnosis, you should be held accountable at the standard of, recovery on both ends. I don't know what a relapse on mental health looks like, but I do know, like, for a person that's in recovery from addiction, if you have a relapse or a return to use, you can identify the day that it happened. You can identify the day that you started over. And I got enough respect for the people who have put in, my predecessors, you feel me? They have put in many years and much commitment to this work. Not work on the clock, but like recovery work on themselves and on the community. I got enough respect for them to say that it's not appropriate. It's not even appropriate to not honor a person's amount of time in active recovery whenever deeming them appropriate to provide recovery support to somebody seeking recovery from addiction. You should have a certain amount of time before you do this work. You should have a certain amount of recovery experience before you do this work. It's not just a job. My name is Change Agent Cooper. I'm not the answer, but I'm for damn sure the alternative. And shout out to Rick for getting me this thing, got me posted up on the dashboard again. Hey.